gentlemen, I am Yusril. It is the 24th of August 2014 and welcome to something a bit different. This is simultaneously a test of a new camera, an attempt to get my miniatures backlog back under control, and yeah, something a little bit different from the usual gameplay and commentary. So, one Astra Militarum Hydra. I have no idea why they're not officially the Imperial Guard anymore. For those of you who don't play Warhammer 40,000, this thing is basically a flak tank. It is a gigantic set of anti-aircraft cannon on a slightly less gigantic set of tracks, and, well, boom, 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 boom. So let's just unbox this. Incidentally, if this works and I don't completely embarrass myself, how many of you would be interested in unboxing videos for things like, I don't know, Warlords of Duranor? Also, safety tip, when you are done with your knife, put the cap back on. It is a very, very bad idea to leave uncapped knives lying about. I have got the scars from doing so. So, shrink wrap off. Let's just pull that. There we go. And lid. Now, how did they do this? Standard box. So, pictures to one side. Right, what have we got? So, standard Chimera hull sprue. That's the tracks, the basic hull, and all the other gubbins. Put that to one side for a moment. The Hydra sprue itself. So, we've got what looks like the basic traverse mechanism for the cannon, shields, elevation and barrel parts, etc, 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 elevation mechanisms, modified hull glacis plate, cannon barrels. Not too bad actually. Mould lines, I'll say this for workshop, their plastic has come on a lot in the last few years. One side with that as well. Let's see, vehicle transfer sheet, they haven't changed this in, 14 years and change now? Won't be that for many, many episodes yet. And of course the instruction manual. Well, who the hell reads those anyway? And of course box with handy reference pictures on the back, as well as shopping list for paints. Although I'll wager that a few other effects went into that. I mean, that dust effect, I don't know, that could be dry brush Karak stone. Anyhow, let's get started. So, first things first, I suppose, is going to have to be the main hull. So, tools for this phase. Clippers. Workshop clippers, the new type. Well, I say new, they've had these out for a while. Not massive fan of these. The blades are nice. I mean, bypass blades are okay. They're narrower and finer to use than the old versions ever were, but I don't like the grip. Give me the old textured plastic or rubber of the older cutters and I'm much happier man. Also, we'll need some polystyrene cement. This model being plastic, it is not required to use super glue and therefore it is not required to risk gluing your fingers together. We'll also bring in a sculpting tool just for taking off mould line, as well as knife for finer work and anything that needs doing by way of cleanup. So, where to start? The hull segments, I suppose. So, cut one. Remember, if you're using snips that aren't workshop, all of workshop snips have got this flat edge on one side. If you're going to use third-party snips, make sure they have that, because otherwise what happens, and in fact I'll do a quick demonstration. Let's just chop this out. Now then, if I cut flat side, you can see there that it's left a nice smooth cut. Almost, well, flat really. If I now do it the wrong way around, you can see that what we get is much more angular, much less neat, and that's going to require much more cleanup. However, as I say, flat side to the model. Always, always, always. So, choppy, 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 if I can see what I'm doing. There we go. So, cut once, cut twice, cut thrice, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so that's popped one clear. We'll pop the other side out as well. Doink, doink. Something that I really wish they hadn't done back when they redid the Chimera hull sprues is that they have got some join points right on the curve of the track plates. Better to have them on the flat, just because it's less noticeable and easier to file down than having them on a curved section. You can see there I've actually cut too close, and we now, instead of a smooth curve, we now have a slight flat section. Might be able to write that off as battle damage. Quick cure for that, by the way, is to cut at a slight distance from the sprue join, so you have a little bit that you can take off in more detail later on. Keep cutting, again, some distance on the curve, there we go. Ugh, hate these grips, still not used to them after months. And choppy. And finally, cut 1, cut 2, room on number 3, room on number 4, straight through. For all that I moan about the grip on these blade cutters, by the way, the new blades are very nice actually. Much less effort than the old anvil pattern blades. So that's that. And for the moment we'll take off the hull plating as well. Slightly more common sense here. They have actually put everything on a flat surface, so we can just cut flush. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So, base of the hull. Take out the glassy plate as well. Crunch and crunch. And then finally, last but not least, the hull extension. Whoop, whoop, and whoop. And I think also whoop. Okay, not too shabby. Are we going to need that? You know, I actually have no idea. Let's leave it to one side for the moment along with the screws. So, standard Chimera cleanup. What we'll need for that is, well, for the most part, you can use a sculpting tool for fine mould lines. So, actually, I have no idea if this is going to show up. As I said, Workshop have improved their plastic casting a lot in recent years, and mould lines are now relatively rare actually. But we're going to need the knife to take off some of this excess sprue that I left on with the clippers. Safety tip again, ladies and gentlemen. Always have the blade away from you and always cut towards something other than you. Never cut towards your thumb. Always cut towards your chum. And also be very, very careful. Yoink. Snippy snappy. Okay, we can solve the rest of that with some needle files. Again, just gently pare it down. There we go. It actually left a little bit of a dent there. So a lot of this we'll be able to camouflage off later as battle damage, but at this point really I want to keep things as factory fresh as possible to give me some room to work with later. So, take that off once, come in from the other angle, take it off again, and then gradually just trim it down. And what you should have, if you're careful at the end, again, this will need a bit of work with a needle file to smooth it out. Whoa, cut that one close, just missed. As I say, always make sure that if the knife slips, it is going to slip away from you. That way you don't end up in hospital explaining just why you have a 1-inch gash. I've actually got the scar there from an occasion when I missed with a saw and forgot my own advice. Right, so that's that part done. Quick trim down of the rest. Let's put the sculpting tool to one side. Not too bad. Just a quick little scrape there to tidy that up. So, with that done, carefully wipe down the knife blade. Very carefully, I might add. Cap on, knife safely to one side. Glue time! Glue time, glue time, glue time! Next step is to start putting this together. So we have inner and outer drive sections on each side. Other rule of thumb, always test the fit before you commit glue to anything. Purely out of habit, even if it's a mass market kit like this, which is going to work and we've not done anything wild and crazy to it by way of conversion, always, always, always test your fit to make sure that what you have got is going to line up properly. This is purely a good habit to have. So, yeah, that's more or less coming in where it's meant to be. The polystyrene workshop use isn't particularly prone to warping compared to, say, resin. So, glue time. Again, pick your poison. Don't have to use the workshop stuff. This is just what I haven't had lying about because I tend to support my friendly local game store. Tiny dabs. As a rule of thumb, you only need about half as much glue as you think you need. So if you're one of those people who thinks that every single micron of the join surface has to have glue covering it, no, 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 no. What will happen is that the glue will squirt and you will have a horrid, unsightly mess. Particularly with polystyrene cement, which works by literally dissolving the plastic together and then evaporating off, letting it seal. So what you basically have is a single piece of plastic. Unfortunately, if you do make a mistake with cement and have to prise it together, even after a short while, A, the join is pretty strong, and B, what you get, and didn't quite give it long enough there, is this horrible kind of almost spaghetti effect. It's kind of hard to explain without deliberately messing up to show you, and I don't really want to ruin a workshop kit, not with how much they cost and how much I've just spent on camera gear. So let's toddle down again, dab it, dab, 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 just a little bit, and we'll put those together, press them home, and we are pretty much set. So drive units are in place. We'll put those to one side, and you know what? Let's grab a bit of dead sprue and I'll demonstrate what happens if you make a mistake with poly cement and don't immediately realise your mistake. So, bit of random sprue, just to be very careful there. So one bit there, and let's have you. One bit there. Now then, let's do this wrong, deliberately so. First off, we're going to massively overload it with glue. So, yoink, 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 yoink. That's going to give you a really, really strong join, isn't it? Well, actually, no. What happens is that A, the pieces are floating, literally floating, and B, the glue squirts out to the side. So you get this horrible mess. As I say, poly cement doesn't glue your fingers, but it does go a little tacky if you get it wrong. So, that's fine. I mean, we've now got poly cement all over the place. We'll give that a few more seconds just to weld up. You can see there that the join's already starting to form. This stuff is quick on polystyrene and other plastics, does nothing to anything else, fortunately including skin. But if I start to try to prise these apart now, most of that's liquid tension still, but you can see that we've got this kind of melted plastic spaghetti forming, and even if I then make a small adjustment, you've got a problem. The other thing that happens is that because it melts the plastic and it overspills, is that it retains texture. like fingerprints. Yeah, folks, you can actually fingerprint plastic with this stuff if you're not careful. So, minimum amount of glue. If you're new to this, basically use about half as much as you initially think you need. And that can go in the bin as lessons of things not to do. Now then, the drive segments should be just about okay at this stage. So, what we're going to do is put this on its base, or rather on its side. Then, because we need to get this right, again, we're going to test the fit. So, front glassy in there. Underside hooks up underneath it, like so. And then the final plate joins. So you can see here what we've got to do. We've then got to have it so it all lines up with the mounting brackets on the other side of the Chimera. Which means that testing the fit can be a little bit awkward. So first things first, we want to get these two bits lined up and carefully into place. So again, tiny quantities, much less than you might think you need, and we'll use that to get a join, or at least a preliminary join if I can make it work. You have to be very careful here, on the floor. Then with that in play, again, tiny quantities of glue, just run gentle dabs along the side. So, in theory, this will now join like so. And that's comfortably in place. Next up, you have to do this fairly quickly because otherwise things do not seal properly. Again, tiny quantities, tiny quantities, much, just the merest hint of a suggestion. If you've got blobs of glue flowing, you've overdone it, as I've just overdone it there. And pop. Okay, so two parts all sealed, and they are lining up correctly. So, final step. Again, you do not want an excess of glue coming in here. Excess is bad. The Imperial Creed should teach you this with regard to Slanesh. Gentle dabs, and finally the main hull joins the second drive unit. Just work it into place, check the fit, and we are good. Little bit of overkill there, got a little clumsy. Okay, so that's the basic hull in place. Next step will be figuring out what to do with the glassy plate. The tracks I am going to leave off right until the end. I want to paint those separately. But cap back on the glue before it dries off, and we're good for part one.